If you like my dad's videos, please subscribe to QA Insights channel.
Welcome to Learn Chaos Engineering series. In this episode, we are going to talk about GitOps and event-triggered chaos injection. In last video, we have seen about resiliency score, and I promised we will see the probes in Litmus Chaos. Before that, let us cover the GitOps and event-triggered, and then we can see about the probes in Litmus Chaos. So before we see the features of GitOps in Litmus Chaos, first let us understand about GitOps. So GitOps is like an operating model where you implement your continuous deployment for your cloud native applications. Everything will be oriented towards your Git repository. In your Git repository, you will declare everything as a code for your infrastructure, and then you will automate so that you can ship your code faster than before. So this will enable us to have some high velocity so that we can ship your code multiple times with confidence. You can learn more about GitOps in gitops.tech. So this idea got conceptualized by Weaveworks. Now let us see about how you can enable the GitOps in Litmus Chaos. So whenever you log in into your Litmus Chaos, and if you have the access to configure the settings, just go there and click on GitOps. And here you can configure your Git repository. Litmus Chaos supports GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, any commonly used Git on cloud. You need to just configure the Git URL like this, git@github.com, and then you can connect this either from via SSH or using the access token. So once you configure your repository, that repository will be your single source of truth. So this is about enabling the GitOps. So once you enabled the GitOps, whenever you create a workflow, whenever you schedule the workflow, it will be automatically pushed to your Git. And if you make changes in your Git, for example, this Nginx workflow, if I'm making some changes, then it will also sync in your Chaos Center. So it will not execute, but it will sync the changes. So now, how to execute something if there is a change? So how do we execute your workflow? So that is where the event-triggered chaos injection comes into picture. So in this case, we have one Nginx deployment running with the image, say 1.21, and assume that you are creating a workflow in Chaos Center. And then your workflow will automatically push to your repository, and then it will have unique workflow ID. So using this workflow ID, you need to annotate using this syntax, litmuschaos.io/workflow, and you have to enable the GitOps equals true. And whenever you annotate the deployment, basically your Nginx deployment here, and then if you just follow the logs of the event tracker, you will get this message: no event tracker policies found in Litmus namespace. So it will not automatically execute unless you configure something called event tracker policy. So event tracker policy is a kind of an object. It's a Kubernetes object, a custom resource definition. So in this policy, you need to mention when your chaos experiments needs to scheduled or when it needs to be executed. So here you have to mention some conditions with the condition type. So in this manifest, we have a condition type OR, and we have two conditions. One is the spec replicas equals to 4. So this is one condition. And another condition is the container image value is Nginx 1.22, and it should be equals to. So whenever these conditions, either 1 or 2 met, then it will automatically trigger your chaos workflow, and then we can monitor in Chaos Center. So this is our theoretical part. Now let us see a quick demo how we can achieve this in Chaos Center. So this is my Chaos experiments public repository. So first we need to connect this URL, the Git URL, in our Litmus Chaos. To do that, just go to the code and click on the SSH and copy the Git URL, and then let us launch the Chaos Center. and here go to settings and click on GitOps and select Git repository. And here you have to just paste the Git URL and the branches main. And here you can connect either via access token or SSH. So I'm going to make use of the SSH option. Now I'm going to copy this and let us go to the Git repository and click on settings and click on deploy keys and click on add deploy key and just paste here. And here let us give some name, say GitOps, and check this box, allow write access, and click on add key. This will prompt you to enter your password. Just enter the password. Now if you go to your Chaos Center and click on connect, so this will automatically enable the GitOps. So as you see, our Git repository is now up and running. Okay, now let us create a quick Nginx deployment in our Kubernetes cluster. So here just enter kubectl create and then Nginx with the image. So we have to use the deployment here. So deployment Nginx image equals Nginx 1.21 and replicas should be 3 and hit enter. So this will create a deployment Nginx with the pod 3. So now let us annotate this particular deployment, but before that let us create a workflow in our Chaos Center. So just go to Litmus workflow and click on schedule workflow and just follow the on-screen prompts. And here let us give a name Nginx GitOps demo custom workflow. And here let us add a experiment, say pod delete, and click on edit and make sure you are using the right target application. And here I'm going to enter 50% of the pods will be affected. Reliability score we are giving as 10, and let us just click on schedule now. So this will automatically start. Now if you go to your Git repository and if you click on the Litmus, and again you can see this is our project, and if you go inside it will automatically created this YAML. So this is the workflow we just created. So now it is reflecting in here. Now if you go inside the particular folder, you can see your workflow ID and other details. So now let us go to the execution. So now it is automatically executing our workflow. So now the next step is to have something like event triggered chaos injection. So right now we have enabled only the GitOps part. Now let us try to automate. So whenever there is a change based on some condition, then it will trigger it automatically. So for that we need to annotate. To annotate we need the workflow ID. So now let us go to our GitHub repository and let us copy the workflow here and just go to the terminal, and here we are going to make use of annotate deployment Nginx. So we are going to annotate with litmus chaos.io/workflow equals the workflow ID. So this will annotate with this tag, and similarly we need to annotate the litmus.io GitOps equals true. So now if I launch my Lens IDE and let us go to the pods and let us arrange by age here, and here if you just click on the event tracker and go to pod logs, so here you can see condition failed for the resource name Nginx resource type deployment, and there is some GitHub notification which is running. So there is some log is showing, but again there is some condition has been failed. So now if you go to your Chaos Center and this is still running, so now let us wait for this to complete, then we can make the changes in our either deployment or the image name. Okay, now the experiment is completed. So now let us go back to the Lens IDE and let us change something in our either in replicas or the image name. So now just click on deployments and go to your default workspace. So this is where we are running the Nginx. So here I'm going to scale to say from 3 to, I'm going to scale down to say 2 and hit scale. So now it will run only 2 pods, and let us observe the event tracker. So basically it will not trigger anything in our chaos center because we have not set the event tracker policy. So now if you go to your chaos center and here if you hit refresh, nothing will happen because we have to set the policy. As per the policy only, it will automatically trigger based on the conditions. So now if you go to your Lens IDE and here you can see it is condition failed for the resource name. Again, basically it will not automatically get triggered. So now let us configure the policy. So now if you go to the terminal, I already created something called event policy here. So this condition will have the type OR, and we have two conditions. One is the spec replicas 4 and Nginx 1.22. So now I'm going to apply this using the k apply and event tracker. So this will apply to the namespace litmus, and if I hit enter, this policy will be applied. So now if I go to the Lens IDE and here again nothing will be there. So now what I can do, let us scale up this particular pod to 4. So I'm going to scale this. So now it will have 4 out of 4 pods will be up and running, and here it will automatically get some notification as you see here. And let us wait for 3 out of 4 pods. So right now it is only executing 3, and here right now it is executing it is coming up 4 is done now. So now if I go to my chaos center, you can see it is automatically started the chaos workflow. Now let us wait for this execution to be completed, and then let us make changes in our GitHub repository and let us see whether it is syncing in the chaos center or not. As you see, the experiment is successfully completed. Now let us update something in our GitHub repository. So just go to your GitHub repository and click on the YAML which you are going to make changes, and let us click on this edit button, and here let us change the duration to say 60 here. So line number 239 I am changing from 30 to 60, and let us just say update the duration and click on commit changes. So now if you go to your chaos center, this will not trigger anything. So whenever you make changes to your GitHub repository, that will sync here. It will not basically run your workflow. So now let us go to the schedule, and this is the workflow we have just made changes. So now just go to this 3 dots button, and now let us click on the save template. And here if you just Control F and search for duration, so line number here, so right now it is not reflected, but let us wait for a few moments and then let us check the value again. Okay, now let me refresh again and let us go to this save template and just Control F and duration, and if you see here you can see the value 60. So it will take a couple of minutes to sync it, but whenever you make changes in your GitHub repository, it will not kick off the workflow, but it will just sync your workflow in your chaos center. But using the event driven and your policy, you can automatically kick your workflows based on the conditions. So that's it guys from my side. If you have any questions, please write in the comments, and thank you for watching. Have a good day.
If you like my dad's videos, please subscribe to QA Insights channel.